Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, a show where we give you a regular geeky download. My name's Tommy, and I am delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's DL.
Yo, dude.
What up? How are you, buddy?
Rocking a mullet, apparently.
You are rocking.
Keep saying it. Like, I mean, I will actually rock one if you want.
Oh,
it
please.
is just quite long in the back.
If you could go for the classic Aussie shave back and sides,
that'd be disgusting.
party at the back, all business at front, that would be
disgusting.
A delight. That'd be so good. I mean, it is getting real long.
It's what
I sent my partner
like 8 months. They're not 8 months. 4 months of no haircut.
Yeah, I sent my partner a picture just now, and it was I got trimmed just this afternoon.
Yeah,
and it was one before and one after, and it was like,
this
is a Neanderthal man versus like a modern man. It was seriously like a chode. My hair had gone way wider than it was long. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean mine grows down, yours grows out.
What's been happening, buddy? What you been up to?
Same.
Sorry, I do this every week. Before we start, will be time codes in the description.
Codes, description.
That one.
Click amongst it.
You can go wherever you want. You don't have to listen to us bantering about haircuts for no apparent reason.
I really want to get one though.
What were we talking about last week at the beginning? It was something music. I can't remember. It was
music.
We were talking.
Music makes you listen.
It wasn't that song. It was a certain type of music. Slow ballads. That was it.
Oh, rock ballads.
Why were we talking about rock ballads?
I don't know. But
sorry, what have you been up to, buddy? What's been happening?
I watched a bit of The Green Mile.
Oh, I was just trying to be nice, chat away.
Yeah.
So how you
doing?
are
you? I mean, same thing. This is what I've been doing, bro. I watched a bit of The Green Mile. Didn't finish it.
How do you not finish The Green Mile? That's quite an intense.
I was down, but Gail got mad at me for something and ran off, and I was like, well, this is one we were supposed to watch together. she just ran off and was on her Instagram phone thing, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll just watch Archer. So I pivoted, but we were like, dude, I was down. I was into it. I was excited to keep watching.
I haven't.
She's been trying to get me to watch it forever, not because I didn't want to, just because it just seems like I know what's gonna happen.
It's a deep film.
Yeah, it's gonna be just a bit tiresome.
It's quite mentally draining as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm at.
That's one of those movies. Did we talk about this last week on air or off air? Because we talked about last week that I'm at the stage where I just don't want to watch depressing movies anymore.
Yeah,
I'm just over it.
I'm not there. After Squid Games, I kind of needed a break.
Big time.
That's the main thing.
I feel like life is quite heavy at the moment, and anything overly heavy, no.
Fair enough.
Just not right now. Give me something else.
So anyway, I watched that. And then what else did I watch? Finished Archer's season.
Good.
Yeah,
recommend.
It's good. I just wish they had more episodes. It kind of feels like the show that should be doing 20 episode seasons and does 8.
Oh.
It just goes by so fast. I just burned through them. I'm just bummed about that. It's kind of like Rick and Morty. It feels like there should be more of them.
There used to be 14, I'm sure, in the original season.
Archer. Maybe that's part of the reason why. Maybe they have cut back, and I'm just this is not cool.
But that's kind of good though. I feel like it was a bit Monster of the Week previously, or
I'm good with Monster of the Week in a comedy. What else do you need? I don't need this congruent storyline. It could be just there could be episodes about nonsense.
But that's the reason why we talked about this. That's the reason why the guy who wrote it didn't want to carry on with the same structure. He went to all those weird, wacky ideas.
Yeah, but now he's back to. I honestly reckon
he realized he wasn't making money.
Yeah, I honestly reckon he should have done Space Archer for longer. That was a fun little sub.
Didn't see that
plot one. Yeah,
I've not seen.
Anyway, there's implications that he might still be in a coma.
Oh, really?
I don't know. He keeps seeing things and bzzz out.
Ooh.
So it's what's going on?
So
they're leaving that angle open. I think
we talked a little bit off air and maybe even on air previously about a show called Life on Mars from the UK. In fact, it's on my Mount Rushmore. I mentioned it before.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in that TV show where he'll just snap into this thing where he's you're questioning if he's in a coma or he's just seeing shit, and it's really good.
Okay.
Better than Archer.
Archer's pretty good.
What else have you been up to?
Archer's pretty good, man. Other than that, I'm trying to think. I kept watching his documentary. I've been saying the same shit because I've been binging, but it's not very. I just want to finish it now because I just want to confirm that it's not good. I'm pretty sure it's not good, but I just are they gonna pull?
What does it say on IMDb?
Are they gonna pull something out of their ass and convince me?
Well, let's look at the IMDb score while we're talking.
Do.
You tell me. Is it? Tell me more about what's happening. I'm never gonna watch it.
The way that I think I just got pissed off at them because they introduced a bunch of lore.
7.9.
That's misleading.
Ooh.
It shouldn't be that high.
Oh, it's got Ruth Wilson in it. I love her.
Which one's that?
She's in Luther. Do you ever watch Luther from the UK?
Yeah.
She's in that. She's
Is she an older Irish lady?
No, she's young, young British lady.
She's good.
Hard to describe.
She's a good actress.
She's a white chick.
She's good.
She's great.
She's honestly the most intriguing part about it.
Okay.
But she's her and the other guy that we talked about last week. I forget his name, Mr. X, but young.
James
they're
McAvoy.
the most intriguing parts about it, and then like they focus on these two kids, and I'm over the tween thing. They found some knife that is, I don't know.
Wait, James McAvoy's in this.
Who?
James McAvoy.
Yeah, he is, but not enough.
He's not in the listing of people's.
Well,
are you sure?
Season 1, he is.
That's really interesting. Anyway, go on.
Anyway, he's very.
So he is.
He's not in it enough, and it's very like that. You keep laughing. I've done
this is well. We're not talking about this, but this would be a contender for our goofiest IMDb picture if we were talking about his Dark Materials, which is this guy, which is I don't know how to go. Matt Fraser. It's a dude who looks like he's attached to a
target.
Yeah, a target, so someone can throw knives. Like a magician throws knives.
Yeah, like the thing they do in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
they got to a point where like they were explaining some lore about some knife that is now this thing that this kid can use to open up dimensions, and I was like, this is just too basic fantasy for me. There's not enough realness in this show. That's what I realized.
So it's straying too heavily into fantasy.
Yeah, it's too high like I don't care about the stupid knife that does a stupid thing.
Huh.
Like there's when you have magic in fantasy,
the stupid knife that does the stupid thing.
Yeah, like it's all dumb. When you have magic in fantasy, like the only time it's like worth doing and cool is when it has a cost.
Sure.
Like when and it's like not predictable. Like, you know what I mean? Like it is like a miracle, and it's like, holy shit! Like we probably shouldn't have done that. You know, like we probably shouldn't have created these fucking dragons that are going to destroy the world or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
In the Name of the Wind, it's like I won't ruin it for you, but
please don't.
It dabbles into that kind of stuff too. It's like not this like thing. It's not like science where it's like a little bit of spice equals a little bit of magic, like whatever the fuck. You know, it's not like this science. They don't make it overly scientific because then it just loses all the appeal. This show. So they
don't overhumanize the magic side of things, but they make it clear enough that you can kind of.
I don't want to like I guess the way I would put it to my fantasy geeks out there is like, what can Gandalf actually do?
Great question.
No one knows because it's fucking magic. That's the point. It's
fireworks.
You're not supposed to know. You're not supposed to understand like, oh yeah, 3 decibels of his beard means that 4 decibels of his like it's not a science experiment. It's supposed to be like this unknown thing.
Oh, you're on a real rant today, aren't you?
Anyway.
Are you okay?
I am.
Are you okay?
This show pissed me off.
Okay.
Obviously.
Have you finished it?
No, I hate watching it.
God. How many got left?
I've got like 4 more.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it sucks.
Similarly, I've just given up on Foundation. I've stopped watching it.
Is it not good?
I don't know, man. Like it's middling to bad. I'd say it's worse than Aquaman. It's less exciting. At least Aquaman's got some fun fucking like special effects and stuff. Actually, no, the special effects are good in this. The action, the action's not existent.
There's a couple of cool characters in his Dark Materials that keep me in for it. Like, like actors, and that's literally it. Otherwise, I'd be like, fuck this. So if you don't even have that, I get it.
I don't like any of the actors in
45-minute episodes as well. So I'm just like,
oh wow. Well, Foundation's over an hour for most of the episodes.
So solid Foundation.
Don't like any of the actors thus far. Like, not that they're bad, just that I've just not connected with any of them. Like, I don't like none of it clicks with me, and I'm like, I like the guy who's the Emperor, who's the one I told you about last week, who's. They have 3 clones of him at any one time. A youth.
That's an interesting concept. I will give him that.
Yeah, it is. I just don't think it's done very well. And the guy who plays in the prime of his life is the guy who plays Ronan the Accuser in Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain Marvel. Yeah, he's great. Love him. He's so good.
He's very intense.
And he's got like a real like angry thespian-esque nature to him, and it's real good. And like but he does like the subtle moments well as well. But then the rest of it, I'm like, I don't care about this.
That's literally all you want.
Like, that's all I want to see. I just want to see him. That's all I want.
Yeah. What else, man? What else did I watch?
Well, funnily enough,
how about you?
You know, I told you before, I don't watch depressing things.
Yes.
Well, I may have struggled with that over the weekend.
So you did watch some depressing.
I did. I actually, so I had my first session in the pub, which was fantastic. I went and met some buddies. We went out in Surrey Hills, had a few drinks. It was great. And then I had this exact conversation about not wanting to watch anything depressing. But I got home and it was like 7 p.m. I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I did the usual, flick through all the channels, everything. And I went, you know what? I've had the film Her with Joaquin Phoenix on my list.
Depressing.
So depressing.
I haven't seen it in a while, to be fair.
So depressing.
I don't remember.
Spoilers for Her from 2016 or something.
What's depressing about it?
It starts with him getting divorced, and it ends with an AI leaving him. Like, it is so fucking depressing.
She leaves him?
She leaves him in the end. That she ascends.
I thought that he like chooses not to like.
No. So all the AIs that got created to be the operating systems, they all ascend to a higher plane of intelligence.
Where love doesn't matter.
No. Well, but she's in love with like
hundreds of thousands of people
at once.
She needs more.
Yeah. And she can communicate with multiple people at once.
Yeah.
And to be honest, if it was Scarlett Johansson's voice, I'd probably fall in love with it too.
Yeah.
But so all the AIs decide that they're too intelligent for the plane they're on, and they all leave. Whatever that means. And then he's depressed again. It's like, so depressing.
Yeah, but it's like an interesting concept. It's not
such an interesting concept.
It's not as exhausting as some of the other things that you
no.
If you were watching Squid, like that's mentally depressing and exhausting.
No, I find that he's such a good actor, Joaquin Phoenix, that I look past a lot of that stuff. And to be honest with you, like I see it in the same vein as like an Ex Machina, what we talked about not long ago. It just makes you ask so many questions while you're watching it. And plus, in that film, Joaquin Phoenix's style is bloody amazing. Like, that is what I aspire to one day of my life, to be that hipster. It's fantastic.
He's very hipster.
He's fantastic in it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, considering he's pretty much just talking to, himself most of the time, because obviously bloody Scarlett Johansson wasn't there. She just ADR'd the lines.
I mean, surely they would have, like, maybe recorded hers first.
You'd assume so.
Yeah.
Played it to him while he's maybe through the earpiece even, which would be really useful.
That would be helpful.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what else I watched this week. It was the Partners No Veto Week.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you guys do like a whole week?
No. It was
No Veto.
It's usually the weekend.
Yeah, okay.
It's movie time. We don't watch movies through the week.
Got it.
Usually. And we picked two of my favorite actors and put them in a film that was terrible.
Okay.
So can you name a film that has both Chris Pine from Star Wars and Star Trek and other things?
Mm-hmm.
Nerds will hate that. And also Tom Hardy.
Yes, it's the one where their agent's dating for trying to date some chick.
I
don't remember the name though. Yeah.
This Means War.
There you go.
It was bang average. Like, actually, it did have a couple of funny bits in it. There were a couple of bits that made me chuckle. But it was so obvious what was going to happen.
Wasn't that good?
No, not really. That, like, do you want me to ruin it? Like, I don't know. Should
go ahead.
It doesn't really matter. You're probably never going to watch it, or at least pay attention to it.
Go ahead. Get rid of it.
Well, Tom Hardy's character has this really hot ex-wife and a kid with her, and she's not dating anyone. She's not with anyone. She's just kind of there. And that, like, the whole purpose of her not being with him is because he's not exciting enough. And then they're fighting over this what's her name?
He's not exciting enough as a secret agent.
No, because she thinks he's a travel agent. So it's like a secret persona. And then when she finds out, she's obviously going to get straight back with him, and that's what happens at the end of the film. And it's like, well, she's obviously going to choose Chris Pine then, because, like, he's got a hot ex-wife. Like, there's just no there's no conflict here. What are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, that's just your classic crappy rom-com.
Yeah, but I mean, Tom Hardy's great. Everyone loves Tom Hardy. That was a movie. We talked about this last week where we talked about Tom Hardy way too much, where Tom Hardy wasn't putting on anything weird or strange accent-wise. He just had his normal British accent. He was just enjoying being in a movie, just being him. I was like, great, you're not in the Bane mask. Wanted. You don't need to have a stupid Irish accent. Like, great. So it was nice to see him. But it was interesting as well, though, because in the movie, my partner, and this is what I was confused by this. She said she thought that Tom Hardy was better looking than Chris Pine. And I was looking at it going, I can see that in this movie. I think it's like between 5 and 10 years old. I was looking at it thinking, I can see that because young Tom Hardy looks great. But if I look at Tom Hardy now and Chris Pine now, Chris Pine's aged so much better than Tom Hardy.
You reckon?
So much better, like a fine red wine.
Chris Pine?
Yeah.
We're talking about the same
guy?
The
dude who was in Wonder Woman.
He aged terribly in Wonder Woman.
No, he's aged really well.
I think I have you on record on this podcast as saying, man, he has not aged well.
I think he's aged really well.
When we were watching Wonder Woman.
I honestly find him super attractive, which is another of my many man crushes.
I think that Tom Hardy probably doesn't for me, but they're both good looking dudes, I guess. Like,
I feel like Tom Hardy's got a bit rough around the edges now. And
but it suits him.
Okay.
He's a rough personality.
Sure, that's very true. He is. And he's, Anyway, there's one other thing I quickly watched, or started to watch, haven't really got into it yet. It is called Oats Studios, and it is on Netflix. You may have seen the trailer. It is essentially like, how to describe it? It's a bit like a Black Mirror or a Love, Death and Robots on Netflix, which is essentially a bunch of short stories which don't really go anywhere, but they're like clips. They're all like between like 20 and 7 minutes long, and they're all individual. None of them connect to this point anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all exploring these weird facets of the human existence, basically. The first two have been great. It's got Sigourney Weaver in the first one from Alien.
Okay.
Really interesting. But my only problem with shows like this is that they give you such a small amount and they don't expand on it, that you get like those first two episodes. The first one is basically about an alien invasion, which they've literally wiped all that. If you see the trailer, it's on Netflix when it comes up. It's the trailer. And it's Sigourney Weaver been really, with her like movie overview voice where she's like, the aliens came and they wiped us all that stuff. And like, it's really good, but it stops at the point where you're about to find out what happened, like where it's gonna go. They've got someone who's been experimented on by the aliens, and he's like, is he gonna help them, or is he just gonna want to like kill himself? What? It's like, I'm like, why give me this if you're not gonna finish it? I want to know the rest of the story.
I mean, it's a fair point. It's a fair ask.
And there's a lot of stuff like that at the moment. Like I mentioned that Love, Death and Robots. That's very like that.
Yeah.
That does kind of usually like curtail its stories, like finish them off.
Yeah.
But like still leaves a lot to be like desired. I find I want to know more about the worlds they create. They're really good at creating worlds and then just not exploring them.
Bummer.
It's very, very frustrating.
That is a bummer.
So frustrating. Well, anyway, that's what we've been doing this week. But before we shift on to the news, I wanted to say welcome to anyone who has come in from the competition. We should have said this up top.
Yeah.
Competition is still running. I think there's another week on it. So thank you to everyone who has invited their 5 geekiest friends to the show. We really do appreciate it. If you have 5 geeky more friends who like this type of thing, get them involved. We love it. There's still a chance to win the $100 gift card.
I'm just going to name movies. Dune's coming out.
James Bond.
Isn't that already out?
No, not yet.
No, James Bond.
Not in Australia.
We've got the Venom movie. If it hasn't been delayed. We've got all sorts of Marvel shit. Although...
we're going to talk about that in a minute. Did you hear this week? Skipping on in such a lovely segue. I appreciate that a lot. You really kicked that in the dick, as they would say in Australia.
Kicked it in the dick.
That's a very Australian thing to say.
I have never heard anyone say it, but I'm going to take Tommy's word that I kicked it in the dick.
We'll start with that, shall we then? Did you hear this week?
The dick kicking?
About, well, a little bit of a dick kick to this. The Marvel Studio movie delays.
I did.
There are a lot of delays. Funnily enough, 3 of which aren't even titled movies.
I was going to say, like, when you're delaying movies that are just untitled and you have to release the news about it, that's like maybe an indication that you didn't need to say anything.
Well, yeah, well, they obviously know what's coming out then.
But they don't need, why even say it? Like,
well, I wonder
untitled movie you have no idea about is delayed. Oh, I wasn't disappointed, but now I am.
Well, interestingly, I'm just rereading this, right? 2 of them have just been removed from the schedule, which isn't very Marvel.
What does that mean?
So they're just no longer going to be released. So basically what happened was...
or they'll be released
at later dates. So what? Okay, so they've all just been pushed. So these 2 untitled movies, which should have been released on the 28th of the 7th of 23 and the 6th of the 10th of 23, have been pushed out so far that other films have taken their place. So, for example, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is now coming out in that first time slot I mentioned. So that's July. And the untitled Marvel movie, which was coming out... This is so far away.
Which now doesn't have
which was coming out in November 23, is now coming out... Well, 10th of November 23 is now coming out earlier. So on the 3rd of November 23.
Now it doesn't even have like a code name. It was untitled. Now it's just...
I'd love it if that was a Fantastic Four movie. I'd love it.
Now it's just... Snaps? I don't know what you call it now.
It's a Fugazi. It's a Fugazi. Well, the short version is... everything's basically been pushed out by roughly 2 months. So Doctor Strange is now in May 22. The Love and Thunder is now...
I've been hearing about that movie for so long. It feels
July 22. Black Panther 2 is now November 22, etc., etc., etc.
Why though?
I mean, like, we can only assume it's because of COVID. Like, COVID's pushed.
But COVID's like in most major markets now is like people can go to theaters, right? So
well, if you think about it, they made a deal to come over here and do a lot of their movies in Sydney for 5 years.
yeah.
And Sydney's been locked down for the last, 4 months? So, I mean, it kind of lines up.
What does that have to do with it though?
Because Sydney's been locked down. They can't be making movies when the place is locked down. That's where they're trying to make these movies.
I thought all these already wrapped though.
No, not these movies. No.
I thought that
some of these haven't even started.
I thought Thor: Love and Thunder wrapped. No.
Thor: Love and Thunder is in production, so they've probably wrapped filming, but is in production. But you can assume it's been pushed back. Same with Doctor Strange 2, Black Panther 2. I don't think they've even started filming yet. The Marvels definitely not.
Anyway,
so it's pretty rough, man. What do you think? How do you feel about that?
Not really worried about it, to be honest. It'll be good when it comes out.
I'm excited for all those movies, to be fair.
Cry
except
over
maybe
spilled
milk. Well, movies we didn't even know what they were.
Yeah,
exactly. Upset about that?
Actually, what am I saying? I'm so disappointed. Yeah, that's like the internet, right? I'm so disappointed about this movie I didn't know the name of and didn't have a release date in my mind
But
for.
it was Marvel.
But now it's delayed, so I'm mad.
Well,
I'm sure that has been...
I'll give you a couple of bits of
the
Marvel
sentiment.
news then before we move on.
Okay,
Things that
please.
aren't delays and being very sad. There is apparently a name for the second Into the Spider-Verse movie. This is very exciting. It's called Across the Spider-Verse, and it's going to be coming to theaters 2022, so that's soonish.
Across the Spider-Verse.
Ooh, I'm excited to see more Miles Morales. That's one of my favorite Spider-Man movies.
It's good. How about the... am I jumping to the main piece of news?
Well, let's hold off with the DC stuff for the moment. I'll just rattle off a few first.
It's just get the Marvel Untitled movies that have been delayed.
There's a couple of other bits that I think you'll like. We got our first images of Westworld been filming this week. Westworld season 4.
Literally like 2 seasons behind.
Yeah.
I'm not even in the Matrix anymore, bro.
Season 3 is not good. But this is real interesting. Like, I've actually seen...
Good. In Westworld fashion, you said it's not good, meaning it is good. 2 negatives make a positive. Was that on purpose?
No, it's bad.
Okay.
Season 3 is
overthought
categorically bad.
Overthought it. You can do
You
that
overthought it.
With Westworld, it's easy to do.
Well, there's been some leaked set footage of, it's the Man in Black and Tessa Thompson's character meeting in a street where a bunch of people are wearing masks and dancing. It's very weird. Not entirely sure what it means. Not supposed to. But it's exciting that's coming out. Like, I think this can only go up from the last season. Like, it went for me, it was like Mount Rushmore-esque season. Pretty good. Dire.
They lost me on
It can only go back up from dire.
I just feel like it's been on a steady train downwards.
That's what I'm saying. It's gone down now. It's come
so
back
like
up.
it can. You never know. It could get bad. It could
Must
get worse.
have made money, though.
I think it's got like a culty fan base.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think so. Well, one bit of news before we talk about the DC fandom, which we will. We talked about this last week, and I'm really interested by this because I made a comment last week that I think I nearly said Van Wilder. That's not his name. Ryan Reynolds should probably just give us a little break from Ryan Reynolds. And it's been announced this week that he's taking a mini sabbatical from movies after wrapping his production called Spirited with Will Ferrell.
I mean, he must have done
so many.
He must have just been like a premium. You know, like I've heard that like actors go through like periods where there's like anyone that wants them has to pay like millions of dollars.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
They just when they're at their peak, they're at the peak, and it's just like they're hot and they can get a bunch of contracts for a lot of money.
Yep.
He must have just had a little like hot seat, right, like that.
Yeah.
Where he was just getting money, and he's like, I can't deny these movies. I gotta keep printing the money.
I feel like there are then two groups of actors, two different types of Ryans, right? So you got the Reynolds who's going to take everything.
Yeah, he's like.
But then you've got the Goslings who are really selective of what they do, but maintain that precipice. So like, he has
but
just
Gosling doesn't do as
blasted
many.
us.
He doesn't do like half the movies that.
No,
Reynolds does.
he probably doesn't make as much money overall, but I reckon per movie he probably makes a similar amount to Ryan Reynolds.
For sure, if not more. But I guess like him and like Leo too doesn't do a lot of movies.
Leo's not done that many in the last couple of years.
He's slowed down.
He's
he's on his yacht, bro.
He's just with a bunch of blonde models.
Yeah.
He's enjoying himself.
Yep, half his age.
Living the life. Well, yeah, always half his age. Right, the main event then. Shall we talk about the DC fandom? Let's
just
do
really
it.
that trailer.
Which one?
That you know which one I want to talk about.
The Batman.
The only
you
one
want to go for that first?
I just don't. Well, I didn't. Go ahead. Talk to
No, go because
just the other ones are like less eventful for me, but we can talk about them.
Okay, go on.
I haven't seen them, so
I've watched all of them.
Okay, so
hit me with your thoughts on the Batman trailer.
I'm not sure about Patterson.
Whoa.
Is that hot? Is that a spicy take?
That's a real spicy take. That's polarizing the internet.
Is the internet not polarized on this? They're about it.
No, pretty much everyone categorically.
There was one part that I liked for sure, where I was like, okay, if this is where he's taking Batman, like
which bit?
Where he's like, Alfred's telling him something. He's like, don't you get it? Like, I don't care if I die. Like, I was like, okay, like this guy's like an emo. Like that's what he is. He's like an emo because like Patterson.
He's got your haircut to be fair.
He couldn't be true. Very straight.
It's very straight.
He was like, he was very emotional, and I was like that kind of like because he wasn't fully pulling off badass Batman to me. So like, don't give a fuck Batman. I'm like I could see like okay, this guy literally is just like so disenchanted with life that he's trying to kill himself in this weird way.
Kind of interesting you look at it that way. So this is basically set in Batman's second year of being Batman. So his first year is kind of learning how to be Batman.
Okay.
And this year he's kind of learning how to sort of work with the police, not against them. And he's sort of finding out all these sort of like super criminals are popping up around him. So it's that it's that thing that they talk about in Civil War, whereby because there's someone strong there, it sort of like attracts other strong people. That you know. And I find that really interesting the way you look at that it's sort of like really getting to him. But there's so much cool imagery in this trailer.
No, nothing about like the cinematography.
So it's just Pattinson.
It was just he just doesn't seem like strong enough to do some of the shit that he does.
He's got the right chin for it though. That's all that matters.
Do you understand my point though? Like I just don't see him just beating down these guys. I'm like, are you that good? Like,
well, I
don't know if I buy that part yet, but I'm sure maybe I will. I don't know.
I think he's more of a lithe Batman. He's like definitely like sleeker. He's not like your sort of hench.
I'm not asking him to just like.
I'm not saying that. Yeah. What I'm saying is, but personally, I think it makes more sense for Batman to be thinner. Like if you were that big and you like if you look at some of the like the Dark Knight Returns and all that stuff in the comics where he's literally a brick, he's ginormous. It doesn't make sense because he's supposed to be a ninja and he's supposed to like. Silently get around.
No, you're right. So if they can like implement that into the movie, like it'll be more believable for me. But I guess like there's just part of me that like I know I've seen him in interviews, and I'm like, you are like this soft-spoken, kind of shy, a little bit of it. Like I'm for some reason I'm having a hard time.
He's an actor.
Of course he is. And my point is
he can play hard, man.
My point is I haven't seen him ever play anything like where you're Bruce Wayne badass. Like when's the last time he played like a badass character?
Well, I've
like
seen,
that's my point. I don't know if I can buy it yet.
In different movies, right? I've seen him play maybe different elements of the Batman, right? So there's, and I completely forgot what it's called. There's the one movie where he's got like the really dyed weird blonde color hair, and he's a bit of a psychopath.
The Good Life, yeah.
Yes, correct, that one. Where he really pulls off that psychotic. Would go out into the night, stalk and kill people kind of vibe.
He pulls off like an idiot, like very well there. Like,
but then you watch him in Tenet, where he's got the nice suits and he's doing the Bruce Wayne. He's very collected and calm and intelligent. So he's got both sides. It's just if he can put it together in one movie.
I think he can. I'm not like actually worried about it. It was just more like I wasn't. I think part of it is I'm just so used to
It's fine not to be sold on him.
I think I'm just so used to Christian Bale's badassery that I'm like having a hard time seeing.
We've had a whole Batman since then.
Yeah, I know. Well,
and we're going to get a return of a different one.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe just Christian Bale's my Batman. I don't know.
He can be your Batman. Yeah. It's like David Tennant's my Doctor Who. That's how it works. What did you think? And I was really, really, really impressed by the prosthetics on Colin Farrell as the Joker.
The Penguin.
I didn't even
realize it. But I know you're
talking. You can't even tell.
I couldn't.
It's incredible. And that scene where he thinks he's beating him with the fire and the bloody bat car, which is clearly a car, it's not a Batmobile, flies through and then it's upside down because he's a bat.
Yeah.
Cinematography is cool.
Cool.
It's awesome.
No, the trailer was really cool. And it does feel like it's going back to like almost like
it's like a detective story.
But like with a lot, like it's actually leaning on the lore a lot. It feels like there's a lot of like characters that I remember from the not the comics, but the cartoon that seemed to be showing up in it, like all in one movie. I'm like, okay, that was exciting.
So do you think? I mean, I have my own thoughts on this, but like, so this obviously has the Riddler, and it has
that one's
and it has
clear.
the Penguin, not the Joker. Do you think this is moving towards a bigger villain? Do you think these two are like pawns in a bigger villain's game?
Hard to say from a trailer. But
True.
I would say no, because you obviously do, and
I do. You want to be against me?
Take
Great. I think this is going to be the last of the trailers I watch for this.
Really?
I'm going to try my best because this comes out in March next year.
Okay.
March 4. We'll be there in a blink of an eye.
It's a while away, mate.
It's really
5
not.
months.
Yeah, that. We were in lockdown for 4.5 months,
That's what
and
I'm
that
saying.
went like a flash. Speaking of the Flash and Batman,
Oh God, here you go.
did you see the trailer? Well, it wasn't a trailer. They refused to call it a trailer.
What is it?
There's a teaser, which was a trailer, for the Flash movie.
I didn't.
So it's just called The Flash. I seem to have lost my notes on it somehow. But it's essentially a Batman movie with the Flash in it. And there's so much.
There's a lot of Bruce Wayne or something.
You don't see him, but you hear and you see a silhouette of Michael Keaton's Batman. It's really, really cool to see him back. There's also some really interesting imagery. So there's at one point there's 2 Ezra Miller Flashes in the same shot. So there's clearly some time shenanigans going on. It looks like it pulls a lot from different sorts of comic books. There's certain things I'd like to see. Probably the second Ezra Miller is going to be bad. He's got floppy hair. All the floppy haired ones in these movies are bad. But it looks very cool. I'm not sure jumping straight into the Flashpoint, which the comic I think they're going to pull from, is the best thing to do because we don't know a lot about this Flash yet. But
they don't give a fuck in this
really
world.
don't.
They just do what they want.
They really don't. And there's so much more. Did you see the trailer for Black Adam? That's the words I'm looking for.
No, I didn't. I don't even know what.
Well, that wasn't a trailer either. That was a teaser.
Okay, so was it just like a logo?
Well, it wasn't. So what they did was they essentially it's only really just started filming. So they got like a few little bits from the beginning, and it looks pretty badass.
Okay.
Like he kicks the shit out of some guys. He's on, like you see how like indestructible he is, and The Rock did a whole piece about how the power was changing, the hierarchy of power is changing in the DCU. I didn't know there was one, but it is. It looks cool. Plus, I also like Pierce Brosnan, who's in it.
Okay, I like Pierce Brosnan as well, so I'll have a think about it. I'll have a think about watching this not trailer teaser.
All right, I'm gonna give you 3 other highlights for me super quick because I know some of these. I know you've been super busy this week and you've missed some of these. There was a bit of a teaser for Shazam: Fear of the Gods. You got to see Lucy Liu and Helen Mirren, who are the bad guys in this one. They look pretty fucking
Lucy
cool.
Liu?
Yeah, she's back.
Where's she
She's
been?
not been here since Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been a while.
Yeah, where has she been?
Don't know, but Shazam's as good a coming back party as you can get.
Yeah.
What's the word I was looking for? Return.
Reintroduction? A rebootuation. That's our favorite word.
Yeah.
A couple of others then, super quick. We got confirmation that Superman and Lois is well into season 2 filming. I still need to finish season 1.
Dude.
I still need to finish season 1. I really enjoyed it though. That's a good ass
did.
movie.
You talked about it every
TV
week
show.
for a while. You were a very, very big fan.
We got more gameplay from the Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad video games, which both look very cool. I know our social media guy, Lockie, shout out as always, posted about them on our Instagram. If you want to find us, we're on Instagram. Look us up, Podcast Assemble. But those games look sick. Have you seen the trailers?
I have seen the Arkham one. Arkham? Why can't I say it?
So the Arkham one's actually the Suicide Squad one. And
I saw something on IGN where it was like new Batman. I figure it's this.
The Gotham Knights is the one which has Robin, Red Hood, Batgirl, and another one of the other Robin / Batman types, and I've forgotten the name, Tim Drake, and it's essentially the same as the Arkham games. However, it's in a different world for some reason.
Okay.
Not sure why.
Just because it's DC.
Because it's DC and they like video games to be weird and fun.
Well, to be fair,
they look great.
You do wonder like who got it right. Like you got Marvel who's like killing it, right? But has to really, really try to creatively engage.
Struggle with video games though.
Struggle with video games. You got DC who can literally just like reuse their favorite property whenever they want because there's no continuity.
They
ever.
only use Batman.
So they'll just use Batman, Joker. They can use like Flash, if they want to, they can make a new Flash. They can just constantly make and release new movies without a care. So like, what will make more money in the end?
In the last 10 years, if you include when the Flash movie comes out, so that's in the next year or so, they will have had 3 Jokers. So they'll have had Heath Ledger, Jared Leto, Joaquin Phoenix.
Did they make money on it?
On what?
I wonder, like, how much of you just compare, like, are they making money on these movies, even though they're...
Yeah, probably.
So...
Oh, yeah, they absolutely are.
Making,
the Joker made $1 billion.
It's still working.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not. Yeah. I'm just saying it's a bit oversaturated. And I
agree.
The reason I like talking about things like the Shazam movie or, you know, the Flash or the Peacemaker TV show is because it's giving us a different thing to talk about that's DC, so they're not just rolling out the old faves.
Yeah, no, I get it. I was just like, them and Marvel have taken a very different approach. I wonder.
Absolutely. But then neither have really broached outside of TV and movie, which is interesting because the video game scene is still yet to be really conquered by either. There's obviously the Spider-Man video game for Marvel, not associated to the cinematic stuff. Mm-hmm. There's the Arkham universe, which is not related to any of the stuff either. So, and I know there's a lot of good animated movies as well, but they haven't really conquered the video game sphere yet.
It feels like they all have to spend so much on the IP to license the stuff that
probably
they just can't spend time on making the game good.
That's very true. Well, have you guys heard anything we haven't talked about? Did you like the Batman trailer? Is there anything from Fandome we haven't talked about? We didn't talk about Peacemaker. I wanted to. Let us know your thoughts. You can find us on Instagram at podcastassemble. Or you can find us on Gmail.
Podcastassemble@gmail.com.
That's the one.
If you're into emailing.
Find us on either. Does anyone email in? Actually, we do have an email in correspondence we'll get to in a minute.
Okay.
The final bit of news before we jump into our main topic is, to segue us nicely,
yes,
that this week there was a vicious rumor going around. That Sir Michael Caine had announced his retirement from acting. And
which would be tragic because that would also mean that Christopher Nolan could never make another movie.
Exactly. Chris Nolan would also retire immediately from this. It was, however, quashed very, very quickly by the man himself on Twitter.
I did read that.
Yeah,
I was got until now.
You
are ungetting me.
I was.
Yeah.
I only found out that he hadn't retired when I found out on Twitter that he actually tweeted saying something along the lines of, "Not many people know this, but I haven't retired from acting." So it's great news. It's fantastic. I couldn't deal with it if he gave up. It's like David Attenborough. They should just carry on.
Yeah.
Let's cryogenically keep them alive forever.
Jeez, going there. With Walt Disney.
Yeah.
One day he's just going to show up like in a robot, like in Disneyland, walking around.
Oh, wow. That'd be weird.
Creepy, yeah.
With
his head.
With both brain. Michael Caine and David Attenborough?
I don't know. It's been a long day.
Protect them at all costs. Yeah. All right. Do you want to give me a main topic theme?
Yeah. Main topic theme.
I love it. Love it. One day we'll get a real one. Yeah, cool. Do you want to give us the
so I'm giving
main
the
topic
theme
this week?
And the main topic. So we're doing what is it called? The Prestige.
We are
another episode of the Nolan anthology.
We are diving back into one of our many anthologies. Have we got 4 going at the minute?
I don't know.
I think we've got 4 going.
This is my favorite one, though. I think
this is a good one. We dive back into our anthology series,
I should say.
Okay, of Chris Nolan movies. This is our 3rd.
Is it?
It's our 3rd. No, we did Memento and we've done Tenet.
Oh, we did do Tenet.
So this is The Prestige 2006.
Do you want to go stupid plot summary, Thomas?
I absolutely do. And I hope you're ready for this.
I am.
Okay.
I think I am.
Journalception. The story of a bratty rich kid who doesn't like being told no, taking on his equal, a plucky up-and-comer whose pettiness literally knows no limits. Marvels, they compete to see who can steal and read the other's diary faster. And something about magic?
Oh, I should have said something about the diaries. How did I miss that opportunity?
It's perfect. It's right staring in your face. I was going to go with something about their stage names.
I have to change mine.
No changing now. No changing
good.
Now.
I was looking for another thing to say. You actually...
You can't just take mine. Go on.
I was just going to add it to mine. It would have been, so I'll read mine again after.
With your best shot.
2 grown men obsessively... Insert diary joke now that I have thought about it. But 2 grown men obsessively perform magic tricks while constantly ignoring 10 out of 10 dime pieces in their pursuit for the ultimate trick, which ends up being a highly sustainable electricity grid, which doubles as a spoiler. Actually, can I spoil it in the stupid...
No,
Oh, you're going to make me stop then.
Not yet.
All right, we'll just go. 2 grown men obsessively perform magic tricks.
That's enough.
So we'll just start with there. While sneaking a read of each other's diaries.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it at all.
2 grown men journal while trying to learn magic tricks.
Yeah. That is literally the whole story of this movie.
Yeah,
well, look, this is essentially the story of a couple of magical friends who end up becoming sworn enemies after, a tragic accident during one of their tricks going wrong. And it sort of leads them to devote themselves to not only the craft, but the rivalry as well. And, there's some sacrifices, there's fame, but also terrible consequences.
Yeah.
Sound about right?
Good summary.
I think this is a really fucking good movie.
I really, really like it, but it has, I think, one fatal flaw, which we'll talk about later.
Yes. There's quite a few plot holes. We can get into that.
There are... Plot holes weren't even the thing. There always is in Nolan movies. But
all right, well, tell me before we get there. What do you think the IMDb score is?
This would be high.
What do you think?
8.7.
You are once again very close. It's 8.5.
Okay.
You're getting good at this. I'm not sure I'm liking.
I'm better at
with IMDb though. You probably notice it.
I honestly haven't for this one. I usually, when I have done that, I've told you.
Okay, well, tell me Rotten Tomatoes.
That would be
tomatoes.
94.
No, this is only 76%.
What?
Yeah, that really surprised me. Interesting fact about this. Not that it's low, but this is the second lowest Christopher Nolan rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
What's the first?
I can't remember. I think it might be Tenet. Oh no, it's one of his older movies.
It should be Tenet.
It's one of his older movies.
I'm not a Tenet fan.
But that's fairly low for.
That's
Chris
surprising
Nolan
to me because this is a good movie. I think.
Yeah, well,
it actually has good acting with character moments.
Okay, well that's interesting. Okay, well this Metacritic, what I've done is with the Metacritic, because I thought you might react like that. I've split it between the critic score and the user score, which is very representative of what you just said. The Metacritic critic score is 66%, but the user score is 8.9.
Why is it so low? I thought this was one of his better movies.
Well, it did come out, and I nearly forgot to mention this, at almost the exact same time as a movie called The Illusionist with Edward Norton, which had very similar plot to it. I mean, it was about 2 magicians who were rivals doing all this weird shit.
So maybe it was just timing.
I think it was just bad timing. Yeah. And I think people were a bit burnt on magicians.
Fair enough. I mean,
but they
are a bit tiresome.
Yeah, well, this is a much better movie than that is. Well, look, Chris Nolan's obviously the director. We've talked about the top. Stacked cast for this. We've got Hubert Jackman, who is Angier. Christian Bale as Borden. Michael Caine, we mentioned, as Cutter. We have
Scarlett Johansson's in this as well.
Piper Perado. Now, I mention her because she is from Coyote Ugly.
Is she? I don't remember.
That's the only thing I knew her from.
She's in a bunch of stuff, though.
Yes, she is. Yeah. It's got Rebecca Hall, who is obviously of Godzilla vs. Kong fame. Mm-hmm. You knew that straight off the top of your head. Scarlett Johansson, David Bowie, Andy Serkis. Huge cast. I'm
pulling it up on IMDb.
Interesting fact about the David...
I forgot Andy Serkis is in it with the Tesla thing.
Well, interesting fact about the Tesla David Bowie character. Chris Nolan almost was saying he was willing to give up the movies, probably a little exaggeration, but he stated that he couldn't see the movie working without David Bowie in that role.
So random and not true.
That's so Chris Nolan.
Yeah.
Not true. What are you talking about? That's so Chris Nolan.
Of course he could do the movie without David Bowie playing Tesla.
No, I think what he's saying is he didn't want to.
But surely.
Maybe he just wanted to work with the great man.
I mean, I'm sure he did want to. I'm just saying there's no way he was David Bowie destined to be playing Tesla.
There's an interesting...
Although he did look like him.
There's an interesting fan theory about that at the end. We'll talk about that. Remind me to talk about that when we get to the end. I disappointingly don't have a goofy IMDb picture for you because they were all good ones this time, unfortunately. So let's talk about the discussion. Let's jump into it. What did you think of this movie overall?
I thought that this is a really, really good movie that basically Christopher Nolan like learned. I think even the one gripes I will talk about later, he learned from in future movies. So
okay.
I think it's a great movie. They pack a ton of themes into this film, and
too many.
I honestly don't think it was too many. I thought it was mostly. I didn't think like they, you know, when like someone tries, like a movie tries to say something and do a theme, and it's like you didn't earn that.
Yeah,
I thought most of them were earned.
Most of the movies we watch.
Yeah, I did think most of them were earned. I thought it was overall just a good film. How about you?
This movie confuses me, right? Because I think its individual parts I kind of struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
But when you add it all together, I'm like, wow, this is fucking phenomenal. I think the first time I watched it, there's so many time jumps in it and skipping between which character's which and people acting weirdly. And like, I get it that we're trying to say stuff and we'll get into that in tones and themes. But I think as I was watching it, I was like, I'm not so sure about this. But when I finished it, I went, wow, a bit like Inception. Inception's just wacky to watch, and you're a bit like
the first time for sure. But like honestly, I can't remember the first time I watched it and if I was like confused. But this time I knew it was happening because I'd obviously seen it before.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I quite enjoyed it. Like I thought the double timeline works really well.
Well, that was one of my questions. Well, let's jump right ahead to that. Is to you, like, what do you think of this as a repeat viewing film? Do you think it works? Do you think it improves with repeat viewings?
Can I be honest?
Yeah. No, absolutely fucking not. I want you to lie through your teeth.
I didn't remember the twist.
Oh, okay.
But like I knew there was one. Like I was like, there's something, I forget what it is. Because I saw this a long time ago. When did this movie come out?
2006.
Yeah, I saw this in like high school. Like our teacher played it for us. Like as we were like,
Really?
we had like a philosophy teacher, or like it was like we were learning about philosophers at some point in natural history or something. I don't fucking know. And
Life.
Yeah, he played this movie to like, because apparently the two characters align to like two different ancient philosophers, like Hughes and some other guy. So like he made a lesson out of it.
Hugh Jackman is a philosopher.
Hughes.
That's really interesting.
He made a lesson out of it, and we watched this movie, and I hadn't seen it since then. But
okay.
I did enjoy. As a rewatch, I did like notice things where I was like, "Fuck, that's telegraphing something, but I don't remember what it is." And what I really did appreciate too was just the how parallel it was. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, it was like the characters mimicked each other, even though they were very, very different. They mimicked like the two ways that like I think you can take obsession and you can take.
I think that's a fantastic sort of segue into talking about the actors.
Yeah.
What like for me, I think the way that the portrayals of Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale across, well, let's be perfectly honest, multiple different characters over timelines is just amazing. Yeah. Like I feel like Hugh Jackman especially just outstrips himself, but the subtleties in Bale's performance between, you know, when you flip in between these timelines and the stuff we'll talk about when we get to spoilers. Oh man, wow. Just wow.
I just think I thought they were both like, they both like played their character really well. Like I just believed that these guys would
hate each other.
Dude, I believed that they would totally drive each other.
Yeah.
And like annoy each other. Yeah. And I just believed that they like totally would sacrifice everything for their obsession. Like I honestly did, especially for not Christian Bale, what's his name? Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman. Well, I made it
especially for Hugh Jackman. I was like, he really is like, I believe that he is so fanatical about this. Like,
I made a really interesting point about Hugh Jackman's character. So I don't think it's a spoiler to say that at one point Hugh Jackman's team, himself, Michael Caine, Scarlett Johansson, they bring in a lookalike to perform the magic trick. We haven't really talked about the sort of overview of the film. We'll do that in a sec. Yeah. To perform this magic trick that they're trying to essentially perfect. Yeah. And in the moment when Hugh Jackman is looking at the actor version of himself, we are watching Hugh Jackman, an actor, playing a character, simultaneously playing an actor, playing a role, watching the character he's playing. Yeah. And it's like fucking actorception. My head's about to explode.
So Christopher Nolan.
It's so Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
But we've sort of dotted around sort of the points of this movie. Like the magic's the key point, right?
Yep. And they're chasing a joke. Or not a joke.
A joke?
A trick. What is a joke in the end, isn't it? They're chasing a trick. They're chasing a trick and trying to like basically perfect and also figure out how each other is doing it.
Yeah.
Both of them, one of them in particular thinks that the other is doing it differently than the way he's done it, and he's trying to figure out his secret. And
there's all the underhand tactics.
There's a theme of like secrets, and they're only worth it as long as they're a secret. They're only have value as long as they're not told, and that plays into the whole magician's like don't ever tell your like how you do a trick 100%. And all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the whole movie is like this back and forth of them like this one after they've split up. This one particular trick called the what is it, the
vanishing
the transporting man
something, yeah.
And
we definitely should know this.
Yeah, they talk about it quite a bit. And yeah, that's the basis of the movie is like.
But it's also set at a time when magicians were huge in society. Like,
yeah, what time was this?
Well, we probably should also know this.
I'll look this up.
You looked at it while we're talking, but like it was when you know.
I think there was still a king in England, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's been a few of those. It's set at a time when. People's entertainment was few and far between.
1890s in London.
There you go, 1890s. And I love the claustrophobic feel of this at all times. Like, it's never like... You get the industrial feel of it at all times. And that these guys are fucking poor for the majority of it. Like, they've got to scrounge to get this stuff together. Well, we say that. I think it just works really nicely. Like, Chris Nolan has created just a really lived-in feeling world.
Yeah, you believe that like people would come and see this stuff because like what else could they do in the 1890s?
Absolutely. What one note on the performances and the characters, I actually thought, and this is very in line with me, I just think ScarJo's English accent was better than Christian Bale's, who is technically Welsh and should be able to do an English accent pretty fucking well.
I was going to say, I thought Scarlett Johansson's accent was good, but I always think they're good. So I was like, but hers in particular, I was like...
She's real good.
It was quite good.
It disarmed me when she first started talking. I thought she was being dubbed.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I thought she was quite good.
It was fucking amazing. I like, honestly, like the whole... Yeah, the pacing of the movie was just phenomenal.
Like, it was cute. It didn't burn on too long. The end maybe a bit, but like they were building towards something, so I didn't really mind.
Well, the reason I bring up pacing is because, like you say, the concurrent stories happening at the same time, and there's flipping between, and there's a shit ton of journal
and
reading,
like parallelisms in all of it, each bit. So you're waiting for the next one to hit, kind of. Like,
yeah, absolutely. But even with all that shit, it's pacey. Like, I never got bored in this movie.
Yep, and it's one of those movies where it like starts with the end.
Kinda, yeah.
It does. Like, the first opening scene is the last scene.
I can't honestly remember. Probably.
It's very. I mean, it's very. Nolan does that in like half his movies.
He's great. He's good at that, though.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I love Chris Nolan. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this stupid anthology that nobody listens to.
So what you like the pacing? What do you think about like the themes of this movie? Because there's a ton.
Yeah, there's so many. I've actually realized I haven't finished my notes off, or they haven't synced properly. So I've got 3. I think I wrote down about 6.
Yeah.
The first one for me is just obsession.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, just the drive of these two men who start off as kind of friends, but there's already that banter there, that sort of like trying to outman each other, outgun each other, and how that just explodes as all the things happen through the movie. Like, they just can't stop going to see each other's shows, and there's obviously like there's a point to the Christian Bale character that we'll talk about in a minute, but like the little ticks that just keep them going back to see, asking how do they do that trick, how do they do it. It's just really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? So like, I have the cost of obsession.
Okay,
so what do you think like the movie says about obsession?
That's a really interesting question. Maybe you have something already lined up.
I mean, I definitely do.
It sounds like you do.
I'm curious though. Like, it feels as if like Nolan is saying that the cost outweighs the benefit, which is someone who's obsessed with time-dimensional space. I'll have to take his word for it.
Yes.
But I also think perhaps what it is, it's like it's not something for the weak. And I think that's a direct quote from the movie, actually.
Yeah, I do think it's a bit of... I do think this movie is a bit of a reflection of his own obsession with, like, the theater. Like, he loves that movie aesthetic, that vibe. He's always striving to make, like, the perfect movie, which I don't think he's quite done yet, personally. I don't think he's quite made his magnum opus. I don't think it's there yet. He's obviously obsessed with that, and I think that's him sort of saying like, this is my obsession.
Yeah.
And it's how does he master it, and how does he find that final piece?
Yeah. I think he has made his magnus opus.
Do you?
Yeah.
You think it's like
not,
Inception, don't you?
For sure.
Not Journalception. Not this.
No.
What other tones and themes do you have?
I have competition is like immoral to outcomes. Like, so like it breeds like very good things.
Okay.
It can breed very bad things. Like it kind of almost like I don't know if he meant to do this, but it's like kind of similar to capitalism, right? Anything that's like competition breeds things that can be good, they can be bad. It doesn't really care, but it sure as hell will be efficient at doing it.
Yep.
And I think that shows in like the outcomes for the characters, right? It pushed them to do really cool things and create this. Without spoiling things, we can't do it, so I'll wait till later. But it created really positive outcomes, but also really, really negative outcomes for the characters. So
yeah, and that sort of fits in with my final one, which was just, is your legacy worth dying for?
Yeah,
like, which is kind of, I mean, all the way through the movie, it hints at these two are willing to do anything for that final trick to outman the other one. It's really interesting. So, all right, then, what are your 3 best and 3 worst?
Look, it's weird saying it's the best, but like, how fucking heartbreaking is it when he tries to drown himself to see and understand what like the pain
Hugh Jackman's character.
Yeah, that one scene where you see him come out of the water,
and it's like a 30 seconds.
It's really quick,
super quick, really interesting.
Well, can we spoil like that?
Not
why
yet.
He's doing that?
Not
well,
yet.
Then it doesn't make sense for why it's my best.
Well, they'll find out in a minute.
Yeah, but it's weird. You really also get that feeling that these two literally can't help but compete.
Yeah.
Even as they are ruining themselves.
Yep.
So it's just great acting from the 2 leads. And then my other one is just the timelines. I did enjoy the structure and how he did these plot reveals that we can't talk about, and the timelines and the crescendos. And I appreciated how it was. It worked.
Yeah. Okay.
The way he like layered it all on, and
I'm totally with you.
The order
I'm totally with you on that.
How about you?
Well, I was going to say, we've talked about a couple of these already, but like, I think he really captured like the feel of the time it was set at. Like, the slandering in the movie, like how they fight, how they're constantly at war with each other because there's almost nothing else to do.
Yeah,
it's just so well done. Like the time for that industrial, dirty, like especially at the beginning when they're completely poor as hell is just so interesting. I talked about the performances. I think wow, like. The actorception that I mentioned in a minute. There's a lot of sections in this. It like wow, like honestly, like when he was doing it, and like obviously it's not the same person, right? Because Hugh Jackman walks around himself in quotation marks. Just so well done. Like and because the camera's cutting quickly, it disorientates you a little bit, and you're a bit like, which one am I looking at? And you're all of a sudden like, I was looking at which one was wearing the jacket and which one wasn't, and I was like, this is just so well done. I think we kind of touched on my third one in the tones and themes, kind of like I can't even really say because it's a spoiler. I'm going to save my third best for when we talk about spoilers.
You can't. You have to say it. I had to. Fine, whatever.
It is literally a spoiler. For the
honestly
entire
think we have to do 3 best, 3 worst from the future after spoilers. That's my new recommendation.
It's more fun.
There's no point.
I've literally written 1 worst because I struggled with this movie.
I have 2, but I really had to try.
Yeah, it's tough.
The twist ending. I would have liked it to be more ambiguous, and I'll leave it at that. In true.
No, yeah, okay, no, I like
form.
that. Yeah, no, I do. I like that a lot.
And then the cop out where he doesn't know which knot he tied, like he definitely does. And they made also like a point of like in that moment before it happens, having her nod, which would indicate go for the stronger one.
We'll talk about that in a minute because there is actually a really fascinating fan theory about that.
Okay.
My one and only that I could really get hold of was just, it's got a lot of Nolan exposition in it. You know, Nolan loves his exposition.
What do you mean, like the narration?
Yeah.
I didn't mind it because it was a journal. There are points where you're like, you don't need to say what you just said. I'll give you that.
Yes. I found that a lot in this movie.
I didn't mind it, but there were a couple times where I was like, you're being a little bit over, like, what's the melodramatic?
Bit on the nose.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then tell me, is this movie better or worse than Aquaman 2018?
Yeah, it's definitely better.
It's of course better.
Tenet wasn't, but this is.
So I listened back to our 10 episode.
Did I say that it was better? I don't remember.
We both said it was worse.
Yeah.
I wanted to know exactly that. What did we say?
I'm pretty sure it was
that?
worse.
And we both said worse because one of the reasons, actually, my third best, here you go, is that I could hear what was happening in this movie. I could tell what they were all saying.
Yeah, it's a win.
All right, should we jump into a little bit of spoilers?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Excellent. Well, what was your best that you couldn't say?
So as a big part of this movie is within the first 30 minutes, the wife of Hugh Jackman, who is one of the stagehands and participates in the tricks, she dies in an accident on doing a trick where she's supposed to basically fall into water and basically get out of a tank where she's tied up.
It's the classic get out of handcuffs.
Yeah,
get out of
underwater.
Get out of a perilous situation.
Yeah, underwater before you drown.
You're either underwater, you're underwater, you're in sand, whatever it might be.
Anyway, she dies doing it during an accident, and it's unclear, although I think it's pretty clear, that if Christian Bale's character tied the knot that they said they should tie a harder one.
Because they had a conversation before before this where they were talking about
terrible job of explaining this.
Basically, the whole crux of their sort of hatred for each other stems from this one moment whereby they talk about whether they should use a different knot for a trick, and the team say no because the trick has worked in the past with this
and there's a risk to the other knot,
and there's a bigger risk to the other knot, and they seemingly go ahead with it anyway. Now, there's a fantastic fan theory about this, whereby the big plot twist that we're going to get into in a minute is that Christian Bale has a twin, and he's living a double life, and he's constantly flipping between the two. Now, that
makes sense.
The fan theory is that perhaps it was the other twin who ended up tying the knot, just believing that was what they decided.
And hence why they're saying, like, I don't know, I've lived this life so many days.
He doesn't know.
Fair enough. That's a legitimate. That makes sense.
So anyway, let's talk those twists then. So there's two huge twists in this. The first,
the worst that I didn't say was that his wife dies, and there's a scene where Christian Bale holds himself underwater because he's Hugh Jackman holds himself underwater because he watched her suffer and die, and he's trying to basically live what she experienced, and it's a very heartbreaking scene.
It is really
good acting.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's good we talk quickly about the Christian Bale one first, because actually one of my tones and themes that I sort of skipped over was, is half a life enough? So the whole that basically we're following these two magicians who are trying to outdo each other the whole time, and the way Christian Bale character manages to outdo his fellow Hugh Jackman for the majority of the movie is that he has a twin, and they both live half a life, switching in between each other throughout the movie, and you're never sure which one you're watching at any point.
Yeah.
And they switch lovers, and he has a wife who is often with the reverse character, and they do it whenever they do this trick. They will swap places. Yeah. Now the point that I was going to ask was is half a life enough? Because in the end, it all unravels, and you see the Christian Bale's character, the second more rash version twin, can't do it and gets drunk in the restaurant and starts shouting at the wife, and that will be a real hard life to live. Been in the shadow half the time, been in the shadows half the time not. Yeah,
it would be. I think that they seemed for Christian Bale's character, it seems to work. For the other ones, for Hugh Jackman's, it doesn't. They seem to be content with the light. It is hard, but they seem to have found this symbiotic thing. Or Christian,
what are we talking about?
Just your in answer to your question, is half a life enough? I think for his character it is, and for Hugh Jackman's it really isn't. He has nothing. At the end of the day, Christian Bale's character still has his secret. He got his career. He had, to some extent, a lover and his daughter at the very least, right? I mean, he does get it taken away, but
that's when we get into the question. The question's about obsession. So Hugh Jackman gets obsessed with this trick, and he's doing everything he possibly can to usurp it, right? Be the best in the business. And he has the double that we mentioned previously, who's a drunk actor, who Bale manipulates into essentially going against Hugh Jackman's character
pretty easily.
And that's what pretty well with alcohol. alcoholics. What can you do? And then eventually what happens is Hugh Jackman's character is driven to the point where he goes off to find Nikola Tesla, who is doing all these cool stuff in science.
He's apparently just a god.
Yeah, and he creates him a machine which literally creates a double of him, and you get to like another tone and theme that we couldn't even talk about without spoiling, which is the fact that every time Hugh Jackman steps into this machine, a double of him is created, and he never knows if it's going to be him who drops down. For some reason, he decides to kill the double every time. That's a baffling one for me. So one will die
because he doesn't view,
and one will continue to live.
Yes, he doesn't view it as another. Apparently, the consciousness carries on. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to keep.
But it would carry on in both.
So he doesn't view it as a killing because it's just one being. It's like no matter what happens, you're going to be me. I'm going to be you. Like that. That's the way he rationalizes it.
I have a really simple explanation to all of this.
Yeah.
Now, hear me out. This may sound a bit crazy, but just imagine if after that first trick, so Hugh Jackman does this in Tesla's old lab, realizes he has a double literally standing in front of him, himself again, who wants all the same things, is identical, has all of the same, emotions, thoughts about the industry. Why not shoot him? So don't shoot him at this point and do exactly what Christian Bale's been doing the whole time. And just have a double. That's what he wanted all along. He just wanted a double.
I think that there's you can get into like character reasons why not.
Well, yeah, the problem is that he doesn't want to share the spotlight.
Yeah, I think that's the point of this guy. Is like his problem is he doesn't want to share the spotlight, and he's willing to do it all for himself.
Yeah,
he sacrifices after he loses his wife. He sacrifices all other relationships, including like sharing the spotlight with his own egotistical version of himself.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I thought it was just.
We've condensed a shit ton of nonsense into about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to be this is going to be pretty nonsensical, but I don't know that Christian Bale or that his character needed. I guess this is what I'll frame this. What did you think about the final twist?
The final twist being that he had been murdering these copies of himself over and over again.
The final twist being that the twin was his twin the whole time and was still around. And
so within the span of about 15 minutes at the end of this film, you find out the twist that Christian Bale did have a twin. He'd been living this double life, and even though Hugh Jackman didn't believe that was what was happening, that is literally what he'd been doing. He'd been switching every time they performed this reappearing man trick. They'd been switching lives essentially. What happens is that Hugh Jackman's character, who's creating these clones of himself, literally clones, right? That's what they are, and murdering them on the spot, frames Christian Bale's character for the murder of one of these clones by
thus getting him in jail, and we think he's done.
And we think Hugh Jackman's dead at this point. That's what you're led to believe.
You think Hugh Jackman is dead?
You're led to believe that Hugh Jackman's dead at this point.
Oh, you mean back then?
And you're sat with Christian Bale. We're not saying their names, but Christian Bale in jail. That rhymes. Reading the diary of Hugh Jackman. At which point, Hugh Jackman then reappears as his actual self, who is this rich aristocrat who was a lord all along, didn't actually need the money. He was just... That was what I meant in my stupid plot summary around...
Yeah.
around a rich kid who doesn't like being told no.
Yeah.
And he has essentially taken Christian Bale's child and is going to adopt her, and as one big last fuck you to his big rival who's about to be killed.
Yeah.
At this point, it turns out that we find that not only had it been Hugh Jackman's character had been creating doubles, but Christian Bale had this twin all along. They'd been swapping lives. So you get this big cacophony of sort of... And
his twin comes back and kills Christian Bale after he's Hugh Jackman, after he's finished his master plan. And you think he's going to win.
So it's a bit like the Lord of the Rings ending. It just keeps going and going and going.
My main thing is they should have had him come back.
Yep.
Christian Bale should have come back and killed Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
They should have done the same montage. We did not need the narration telling it was my twin.
Oh yeah.
Leave it up to the viewer to determine if it's a twin.
Yep.
B, if actually Christian Bale did find Tesla and made him something of his own, and he used it to make his twin. And by the way, he went the opposite way. He didn't decide to fucking kill the guy. He worked with him. Yeah. I thought, and it would have been a good juxtaposition. juxtaposition with Christian Bale versus Hugh Jackman, and there are two approaches when given the same device.
Absolutely.
And therefore you could say it was a twin. It would be theories abound, but don't tell the viewer exactly what it is. Let them debate it.
I'm with you on that.
And you want to know why Christian Bale learned from this and created his magnum opus because of the Inception ending.
Absolutely. Obsession's been what we're talking about the whole way through, and I think you just hit the nail on the head. Like, Hugh Jackman, you can't see past the amazing implications having a machine that can double anything.
Yeah.
Think about it. You can have whatever you fucking want.
Yeah.
You can have infinite beautiful women. You can have infinite versions of yourself to do the trick with.
Yeah.
Or just one, because that's all you need. You know what I mean? He can't, like, the point is his obsession's got to such a point, he can't see past this phenomenal gift that he has that could cure the world, feed the world, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I find that really interesting. That's how far he's gone.
No, I agree. And it goes to show his character. Like, I think also it feels as if, like, he's just, the first thing he tests is himself. Like, what's going on there? Surely you would test something.
Well, they tested the cat.
He gets the thing, goes to London. He's like, you know what? Let's try it on me.
Let's go straight in.
Like,
here we go, guys.
I was like, bold, man. It's fucking bold.
Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah, like, don't you want to try calibrate it first? Try it on a shoe.
I've got a question for you. I do have a question for you thinking about it. And this is something that's annoyed me about this movie, but also I genuinely really like about Chris Nolan movies in general. So one thing that frustrates me is that Christian Bale, let's be perfectly honest, he gets Hugh Jackman's wife killed. That's kind of what happens at the very beginning. Whichever version it is, essentially gets the wife killed, right? And the way Hugh Jackman gets back at him is by shooting off two of his fingers, which... Yeah, I kind of say fair enough to that. I feel like he hasn't given him an explanation for what happened. Like, he's in depression. He's clearly drinking a lot. You can understand that thinking pattern. But how many times does Christian Bale get back at him? Like, the dropping down so he, like, breaks his leg, the stealing his girl. Like, it just goes on and on and on. And I'm just like, dude, like, you killed his wife. Like, chill out.
There's also, like, a bit of accountability, though. Like, his wife and him were, like, doing a very dangerous game.
True.
Like,
very true.
You know, you can understand both parties.
Well, the point I'm rambling towards here is that the thing I genuinely love about Nolan movies, and really doesn't get explained ever in any of them, which I really like, is that none of his characters fit the sort of hero mold. None of them, like, this is a perfect example of that. You have these two leads, neither of which are likable. You're never quite sure which one you're supposed to be rooting for, even though you kind of feel for the plucky underdog at all times. You think, you know, Christian Bale, like, how's he doing it? He's clearly the more intelligent one in terms of the magic stuff, and Hugh Jackman's just a rich sort of, well, you don't know he's rich, but he's just like, he's just a frustrated guy who can't get past his own hubris. But neither of the characters have, like, the classic hero arc. None of them go through those stages, and you never, I mean, call me out if I'm wrong, but you don't see that in any of Nolan's movies. But at the same time, you still root for these guys. Like, I wanted Hugh Jackman to find out what the trick was. I wanted to know. But at the same time, I wanted Christian Bale to outdo him at every turn. It's a bit like what we're talking about with Heat. Like, you have these two almost unlikable leads who are just intense and, you know, dedicated to their crafts just in different ways, but neither are a hero. Almost anti-hero, in my opinion. Like, I just love that about Chris Nolan movies, and I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
I think that when you say it like that, like, the protagonist is the closest thing he has to a hero.
John David Washington. Is that right?
Yeah.
The protagonist. Christ, that's a bad name.
They're tortured souls, usually. Like,
yeah, he does a lot of tortured souls. And you don't really know why Bell's character's a tortured soul. You don't really see it, but he's clearly from a poor background. He's clearly worked hard to get to where he is. That's why he's
obsessed.
Scrutinizes every aspect of everything and why he sees things. Like, and that's one thing that's cool about these two characters, the differences in how they see the world. And it's perfectly described by when Bale starts doing his reappearing man trick, and Hugh Jackman can't think of why it must be the same person, but then Scarlett Johansson's like, oh, you can tell because he's got the padded gloves and he's lost the 2 fingers. When really, they're just so dedicated that he's chopped his own 2 fingers off for this craft.
Yeah.
And that's highlighted further when you see the Tesla thing and the expose. And I think Christian Bale sees through the whole thing and he's just like, this is a way I can manipulate this guy. Whereas Hugh Jackman's just like wide-eyed and like, wow, this is amazing. And it's like the different ways they view the world I find really interesting.
For sure. I mean, like they do a great job paralleling those characters. I think that the main thing is like that pisses me off is they fell short of it by like telling us what happened instead of letting us.
Oh, I'm with you.
So, like, it's funny because it's a movie about like not telling the joke. Yeah. Or, sorry, not telling the secret. Why do I keep saying joke? Not telling the secret. Right? It's like,
the whole
I think
point,
they literally say in the movie, the secret impresses no one.
That's
like,
the point.
Why didn't you take your own advice?
That's why I find it so ironic that they say that twice, at least in the movie.
It's so ironic that he told us the twist.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. Well, one thing I did want to ask you about, though, is, speaking of ironies, do you think it's super ironic and a bit creepy that Hugh Jackman's character, when he kills his clones of himself to make sure he is the one, he is the Highlander, he drowns them? But that's the same way his wife died. It's like, that's not a coincidence.
Well, it's not his clones. It's him as well.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, like so,
he has to experience what his wife went through. The trauma that
this guy is
pushed him to this point.
This guy is a fucked up dude.
He's really fucked up.
He doesn't know. Like, obsession has fucked him up. Like, and that is like a quintessential point of it. Like the fact that he, instead of seeing this as something that he could just do once and now do the trick normally. Yeah. Or B, that he could just do many times or be used to do some other things. He chooses to use this gift in the most traumatizing, agonizing, rehashing old wounds way you possibly could.
Well, yeah. When you're saying that, I just had this thought that perhaps the whole thing is like a big metaphor for like, a part of him that loved died when his wife died in that tank, and the only part that continues is the obsessed part.
Yeah, no, it's totally true.
That's really interesting.
It's totally true. And I think that you could also juxtapose that with like the Christian Bale character, who basically always maintains half but never gets all of it. Like whereas like Hugh Jackman goes the whole way, he almost doesn't get a full viewing of either scenario.
Yeah, okay.
But at the end of the day, he gets the last laugh, so I don't know if that holds up.
Well, let's wrap this up super quickly, but one thing that we talked about at the beginning, and I'd love to come back to just to ask you at the end as a sort of like nice circular way to end the pod, is like, so this movie is, it's made for repeat watching, but it is called out many times that once you know the secret of a trick, it's no longer that interesting. After talking it through, do you still feel like it holds up on a repeat watching, or do you think knowing the secret kind of deters from?
I think it would have held up better if they didn't explain that they were twins and they just showed that he was there, took off the mask and shot him, and you're left thinking, what was that?
What happened?
I think it would be much more interesting, but because they've told me, now I just go back and I watch and I'm like, oh yeah, it's a twin. Yeah. He talks about life and having to having to live your sacrifice, like
great exposition,
all sorts of stuff like that. Like, so it does a bit, but I still think it's a good movie because the acting is good in this one. It is good to rewatch. Like,
yeah, I agree with you.
Tenet doesn't have that great of acting in my opinion, beyond like Pattinson.
What's the dude who's in X-Men? Sorry, who's in the Avengers movies? Aaron Taylor Johnson. I liked him as well.
But he was in it for like half a fucking
he was
second.
not in it at all. Yeah, no, you're right. I've got to go back on probably what I said before. I think the second time, knowing that secret at the end and knowing how it all plays out, and it is quite exposition heavy towards the end of the movie, I was like, it doesn't quite live up as well. Like, I enjoyed watching it back to pick up on all the little nuances and some of the stuff. Like, there's a really fantastic one where, when we talked about the Tesla expose, there's a guy in the crowd who's heckling him and being like, this isn't safe and la la la. Yeah. It's nice to pick up that, but it's a blink and you miss it moment. If you see him, who was Tesla's great rival in real life? He was one of Edison's men who went up and destroyed the house. Yeah. things like that I like seeing in this, but I think knowing the ending kind of takes away a lot from the movie because you start to look for the nuances in the characters. I mentioned how very different but similar the two Chris Nolan characters were without trying to say it at the beginning. To Christian Bale characters were, and I liked looking for those differences. You could see the one who was more aggressive and who was more, obsessed.
That part would be fun.
He was the one who was going to Hugh Jackman shows and getting more and more wound up by it.
Yeah.
While the other one had taken a step away. I like watching that stuff, but when you get to the end and it's going to be a case of it's these weird clones and he's had his fingers chopped off the whole time, I'm like, it kind of detracts for me.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that it would be fun to watch it again just for that, but that's about it. Like, the first half of the movie is like a normal movie, and then it gets really meta in the second half.
So meta.
It gets really meta in the second half. So, like, I'd enjoy watching like the first half again, but getting through that second half would probably be difficult.
It is a tough watch. I'm not going to lie. Like with all the time jumps and I mean at the time, looking back, it's great, but not knowing why Christian Bale's character is so off from scene to scene, and sometimes is really bullish, and sometimes
they hint at it the whole time. What they do a good job of is telegraphing things, like in a subtle way. Like, so that would be, I always like appreciating that on a rewatch and be like, wow, like you did give me just enough, but not enough.
I'm with you. They genuinely do, and I'm not knocking that. Like, yeah. I love that, and I've kind of talked it to death now. Great. Final thoughts?
Better than Aquaman.
It is absolutely better than Aquaman.
Would you rank it in your...
We should rank the Nolan movies we've watched.
Have we not done that yet?
Well, we've only done 2 so far, so...
Yeah.
So we've got Memento, we've got Tenet, and we've got Prestige.
Prestige, Memento, Tenet.
Correct. Correct. That's what I do as well. You're right. I think so too. I genuinely.
I like Memento.
I think if I hadn't watched the first 20 minutes of Memento in
Italian,
I reckon it would probably have been higher.
I like Prestige's acting a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's not like Memento's a really cool and well thought out movie, but like there was character moments in this one that Memento doesn't have.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you a couple of bits of trivia. Now, I didn't dive too much into trivia because there is a lot about this film. For example, it was a labor of love. Took over 5 years to write the script. It was originally between Sam Mendes, who did Skyfall, and Chris Nolan. And Chris Nolan was gonna try and do it before he did Batman Begins, and just ran out of time.
Yeah.
But I think what I'd like to do is propose 2 sort of fan theories to you that I'd like to hear your thoughts on. And then maybe use that as trivia instead of having actual trivia. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
So the first one was, and I'm going to go with the least controversial one first because I prefer this one. The first one was that Nikola Tesla wasn't actually David Bowie. It was actually Andy Serkis's character, and that was a ploy, just like everyone else was trying to play all along. So in the whole movie, they're setting up that the assistant has a huge role to play. And Michael Caine says it numerous times. Like, they distract the audience. They take your attention away while he's doing the trick, while they're, pulling a rabbit out of the hat.
You say that, yeah.
And the fan theory is that all the way through, Nikola Tesla is actually hiring David Bowie as an assistant himself so that he can basically be on the sidelines and watch what's happening. And as the assistant, he could go and meet Hugh Jackman's character and see if he was worth giving the equipment to, or if he was just some kind of fuckhead or whatever.
What's the plot? What does that do to the plot?
Not a huge amount, but
that's why I don't think so. But
I like it a lot. I think it changes a lot of a lot of different scenes. Well, I think it adds a lot to the mythos of the, like I say, having the glamorous assistant or being the one who's doing the trick.
It makes sense, I guess, to a degree, but it's also like, if it is, it is. If it isn't, it isn't to me.
I kind of like it. I think it's a good one. Well, the other one then, maybe.
Then, like, if that's really the case, then, like, how could he not make the movie if he didn't have David Bowie?
It's a very good point. Very, very good point. I like it. Also, he does, Andy Serkis does kind of look a bit more like Tesla. He's got the dark hair and he's got a cat as well. The other one is probably the one that you're going to be more interested in, is the theory that, now let me get this right. So the guy who drowns, who Christian Bale finds, isn't actually a clone.
Isn't a clone, is what?
The clone thing doesn't actually happen. That's a big subterfuge in itself. The person who he finds in the tank is actually George Root, the drunken actor who he uses for a while, and then Christian Bale, pushes to give demands and stuff.
Yeah.
And they don't actually check they never find the other bodies. So the idea is that they're just wax replicas of himself. Because he's rich, he can do what the fuck he wants. And he's just killing off the one person who knew his trick at the end, so the George Root character, and framing Christian Bale in the whole thing. So it's not actually big science. It's that in itself is a big subterfuge. And the real trick is that it's just a double all along.
But what about he does the trick like hundreds of times?
Well, that's the point. He just drops down. Old mate drops down and Hugh Jackman comes out from the side. That's the point. He lets him have the spotlight for the point of the show while he's building the trick up. And then as soon as he steps into the machine, drops down, Hugh Jackman's character then actually pops out from somewhere else in the theater. So the big trick is that it's not actually, the machine does nothing. It is subterfuge.
And he does kill him in the end, though?
And he kills Root so that the secret goes to the grave.
Okay. So he has been using him the whole time.
Essentially.
And then eventually kills him.
That's the idea. Yeah. The idea is, I mean, like, that's completely thrown out the window by the fact that the cat gets fucking duplicated and the hats get duplicated.
I was going to say,
but
what about
I do like it as a fan theory. I think it's interesting. I think it's good.
No, it is.
It's different. There is actually one bit of trivia I want to mention, which is, did you know that Jude Law was in contention to play one of the main roles in this before these two? That'd be a very different movie, right? All right. Thank you very much for sticking with our, again, rambling.
This was an extra rambling one.
This was almost as nonsensical as the movie was.
I think it's because I'm a bit tired, and it's hard to tackle Christopher Nolan movies when you're tired. But
it's true.
Thanks for bearing with us.
We do appreciate it.
I did like the movie. Would recommend.
Yeah, go watch it. Go watch all Chris Nolan movies.
Yeah.
Except maybe Tenet. We've got a couple of bits of correspondence this week.
What do you got?
Love it.
What do you got for me?
We do have a couple of fantastic ones, and both are questions, so get ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Friend of the show, Jacob. Love to hear from you, mate. Thank you for the correspondence. Friend of the show, Jacob says he's having an argument with his girlfriend, and he wants to know what Podcast Assemble think about who the strongest Avenger is.
Who is the strongest Avenger?
Who is the strongest Avenger?
The strongest Avenger, I mean, according to Marvel, according to the MCU, it's like Captain Marvel because she's off just saving every other universe.
Well, he doesn't say it has to be. He doesn't have to say the MCU. We can stick to the MCU if you want, though.
Well, the strongest Avenger, aren't they all in the MCU?
We're not talking about the comics or video games or.
Okay.
Let's stick to the
sorry.
MCU.
Sorry, I thought you meant stick to Marvel. I thought you were talking about.
We can do that. Let's stick to the MCU.
No, dude. Like I think that it's probably Captain Marvel because she's really boring as well, which adds up to really powerful characters.
Superman isn't boring.
He's boring, man.
My response to this was I wasn't 100% sure yet, because yes, Captain Marvel was my first thought, but the way they're building up Scarlet Witch could easily take that mantle.
I think that like Scarlet Witch is cooler, which thus makes her less powerful.
Yeah. Okay. What about Doctor Strange?
It's not inverse relationship. It is an inverse relationship. The more powerful you are, the more boring you are. Therefore, pick the most boring character. Therefore, that is the most powerful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
Do you like my theory?
Kinda.
It adds up.
I'm not 100% sure.
The math adds up.
I'm kind of with you. I don't know Doctor Strange though. Like, I mean, we're talking different types of power here. She's very much space lasers, and he's very much magic.
But also very, very not boring.
Oh.
So, therefore, he must be low on the totem
This is our
pole.
scale. Maybe we should use this for all of our movies. Who is the strongest person in this movie? Who's the most boring?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see if it adds up.
All right.
Let's see if it adds up in the future.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about this in the comics. You can't really say anything because it's just whoever the hell's writing.
Yeah, that's fair.
It doesn't really matter. Like I think Thor's pretty strong at the minute. I've been
He's a god.
But then Hulk's usually stronger than most. Man, there's a lot. There's a lot. Okay, like
it's hard to pick them.
Yeah. Thanks for that question, Jacob. We'll argue about that all night. So Second bit of correspondence, and thank you to friend of the show, Drew. We do appreciate this. This was to thepodcastassemble@gmail.com, the one I mentioned earlier. He asks, in our opinion, what 3 superhero movies receive too much hate? I find that a really interesting question. He's given his opinions. I think if I'm thinking longevity-wise, the second Tim Burton Batman movie, it doesn't get hate per se. It's still sort of deified like the first one is. But there's a lot of, not hate. It has varying opinions because the villains are pretty wacky in it. Like, it's very much in the sort of Dark Knight mold of it's a villain movie where Batman is in it. So, like, the Penguin Danny DeVito's character literally bites a guy's nose off at one point, and it's quite divisive. But that's one that I'd say, I mean, it's not hated. I can't say that. His personal ideas were The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Iron Man 3, and Spider-Man 3. Now, if you think about Iron Man 3, that should be a plug for our previous episode.
Iron Man 3 gets a lot of hate.
It does. It was better than I remember it being.
It was just mediocre.
Yeah. Oh, no, I enjoyed it.
I'll give James that.
No, this is friend of the show, Drew.
Friend of the show, Drew.
I would go back and say that Iron Man 3 is better in a retrospective than it probably is. Probably given credit for.
Yeah.
All right. We do appreciate it, friend of the show, Drew. He just said, just a thought. Always love your work, guys. We've inspired him to create his own fan account on Instagram. So awesome. Hit up the MCU Informer, guys. You'll find some awesome content there as well. We do appreciate it, friend of the show, Drew. Love it. That's it for the show. Where can they find us if anyone wants to get in contact?
You can find us at thepodcastassemble@gmail.com.
We just said that. Or Podcast Assemble on Instagram. We are there. We will find you.